Hello, Ahmed. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Caio. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Ahmed. Hi, Caio.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for your effort in the iOS community. Like, you really enriched the community so much last couple of years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, are you an iOS developer?
Yes, I am.
For how long?
Yeah, 5 years. You can say 5 years. And before that, I was a PHP developer / Java developer. So
Awesome. I did
yeah.
PHP as well in the past.
Cool.
Everyone did PHP
I
at
think
some
exactly.
point.
Everyone did. Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. How can we help you today?
I have some questions. Most of it related to the process of building a good app and building good software components. So yeah, I can start by first of all, like, how can you translate the requirement that you get even from external teams or from whatever entities? Maybe they are not technical, maybe they are, but they don't understand the mobile development. Even if you want to build something yourself, like a side project, sometimes you don't really get the whole idea, like the whole picture. So yeah, that's my first question: translation, the requirements. Second point, the communication. Communication with other teams, even again if it's technical or non-technical. And about technical, I'm talking about like back-end teams, like Ruby teams or whatever teams, because sometimes they have a different approaches to build the APIs, especially if it's a centralized API. So it serves like the web app and the mobile apps. So also the communication point is something I would really like to learn from you about it.
All right. So let's go one by one.
Yeah.
Let's start here.
Let's start with the first one. So translating requirements. You mentioned that sometimes the requirements are not very clear, or you don't know the full picture or the big picture of a feature, and it's hard to estimate. It's hard to even start, right? Where should we start? So the thing is that I probably never seen a very clear requirement ever, right? And that's part of our job as developers. We're not here just to get a perfect requirement and translate it into code, right? Or if that was the requirement, we are going to very soon be replaced by AI. If you have a very clear requirement, then AI can do the software for you, right? Translate that into code. So being a software developer is much more than just writing code. It's actually being part of this translation of requirements, because you have much more expertise than probably a non-technical person. For example, a common example I see is you get a requirement and they never handle like errors. Like, what if this request fails? What if the server is unavailable? Like, what is the fallback strategy here? Like, should we cache stuff? Like, these are the technical expertise that you can bring to the table that makes your job even more valuable, right? If you see your job not just at translating code, but requirements into code, but actually being actively part of fulfilling the business needs, developing the features in general, like even sitting down with the requirements, with the business analysts, with the product owners, with the stakeholders, with the customers, and figuring it out, right? It's part of the job. And this requires good communication, right? Which is the point too you mentioned.
Yeah, that's key. Like discussions, actual, like literally discussions, like try to understand more of what is needed, and perhaps they don't even know. Like, I mean, that's
sometimes.
Absolutely. So there are techniques you can do. Like, let's say there's a requirement that you cannot get from your clients, from your stakeholders, what they want. What you can do is like create a very quick prototype and show them, is this like in the right direction, and they might say, no, that's absolutely wrong. That's not what we want. But now, okay, so what is wrong about it? You have something more concrete to talk about rather than just sitting down with text requirements. Maybe create a quick prototype, like 2 hours. Just put a bunch of Swift UI views together, no tests, no clean code, just make it work, like just fake some network requests, like no backend, as quick as possible. You create some prototypes, and Swift UI is pretty good for that. Or even if you're not using Swift UI or using storyboards, you can very quickly create prototypes. And then you have something more concrete to talk about. Another thing is understanding the big picture is never clear. The big picture is never clear, especially at the beginning of writing a feature. You will be figuring it out as you go. And this big picture will change over time as you keep developing. So instead of trying to get it right from day one, build software in short iterations. Because then instead of working 6 months and showing to your customers something, they say, that's not what I wanted. You work 1 week, 2 weeks, and you say, is this? And say, that's not what I wanted. Now, 2 weeks is cheaper than 6 months.
yeah, of course.
Right? And if you can reduce even to 1 week or a couple of days, or every day you push the code and automatically you deploy something at test flight, on test flight, and they can test it and interact and give you real-time feedback every day. This will improve the communication. So short iterations is key to the big picture will come up at some point, but you need to have something more concrete to talk about, and we refine the requirements, refine. It's never clear at the beginning. The big picture is non-existent.
Yeah.
They have somehow an idea of what they want to achieve. Their mind is going to change a lot, because when you put a product to market and you get the reaction from the customers, you start, actually going the wrong direction. Actually, they don't want these, they want that. And then as you're figuring out, the requirements will change. So instead of trying to get everything right at first, work in short iterations. It's much simpler, cheaper, easier, faster. And keep communication very clear with everyone, with the customers, with the stakeholders.
People also expect you to get things right, and like this is I have found that to be a very key thing in our careers, that people expect you to get things right, but as you said, like sometimes you just don't know, right? So go asking someone, hey, like what do you mean here, or the equivalent might resemble like weakness, but it's not. It's literally gathering more information so you can make a better decision, so you don't like feel the pain 1 week later, or 2 weeks down the road. Does that make sense? So communication is key here. Discussion, like being proactive and discussing things, and exactly as Caio said, like error handling, for example. That's our job, to know how the system is built, how the system, like what is possible, for example, with the
points
OS.
of failures.
Yeah, exactly.
Points of integration, external systems, points of failure.
And bringing that in the conversation.
But don't bring as problems, bring with solutions. Don't
go and say, that's the point.
You don't just come and say, no, this is going to be problematic, because this system can fail. And they're like, so what can I do? It's like, no. The problem is like this system can fail, so we need to have this strategy here and here and here.
Yeah.
You need to bring solutions, not problems, to the table.
Yeah, the thing is like the language between sometimes the product and the technical sometimes is not unified. So sometimes you feel that you say something and you can see on the faces of the product that they don't 100% they don't know what are you talking about. So that's why you feel, okay, I will. Siri was talking. So you feel that you are not on the same page. So is there a way to make it gradually, or make it in steps? So first of all, we got a Jira ticket or whatever, something from the requirement, some requirement. The person who wrote this requirement, see it's clear and this is the design for it. Yeah, go implement it, and we expect it next week to be in the store, right? But they don't think about the other scenarios as you mentioned, and also sometimes maybe is there a meeting that we should have with the product weekly or something to discuss about these points and how also to translate this into a product language, because sometimes they can understand and sometimes they don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, usually teams have a person responsible for the translation. You know, a person that is a bit technical, that can understand the technical side and also the business side, like a product owner, for example, or a business analyst. And you have someone that is like a lead developer that will be bridging that gap.
Yeah.
You know, but not the whole team, because it might be a waste to always have meeting with the whole team, but someone that will talk to the business, translate that to the technical side, and help the team make better decisions. And when the technical team have problems, we'll also translate that to a non-technical language and communicate with the business and bring solutions, not problems. Always you bring solutions and say, oh, we are facing these problems and we can fix it this, or like this. And you give them options, you know, and maybe different options will have different, will require more time. One might require us to acquire some product that costs money, you know, and then the business will decide how to handle that. For example, you can say, oh, we need to have a faster CI process, so we need to buy hardware. It's going to cost £200,000. Like, oh, you know.
Mm-hmm. I highly suggest you read the second part of the Lead Developer Essentials book if you haven't already, because it's all about this topic.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's really, like, I would say, enjoyable for us to implement something that you understand, and there is nothing clear at all from the beginning, but at least to have like almost all the scenarios covered, and then you can continue. But as you said, I think it's something iterative, that it will take time, and it comes with time, comes with communication. Yeah.
The faster you accept that fact that the big fish is never clear and that, you know, you need to build software iterations, the better time you have as a software developer. And the more you can also earn as a software developer, because you will position yourself in the business differently. I'm here to solve problems, and I'm here to help them translate the requirements. I'm here to help them come with the requirements. I'm here to help them build a product, rather than just tell me what to do and I'm going to write the code. Because that's how we start. I remember when I started as a software developer, it's like, just tell me what you want and I'll write the code.
Yes.
But then if they are going to hire someone that can do that, or they're going to spend all the time to make the requirements so clear, they're going to say, you know what, I did all the work. You just have to write the code. I'm going to pay you $100 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So you can bring much more value with your technical expertise, bring much more value to the table when you are part of these decisions, when you're part of the finding out and helping them come up with good solutions. You know, like, yes, the fun is writing the code, but the value is here, building products.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's fun to eat McDonald's and, you know, have soft drinks and sugar, but if you want to get fit, you need to enjoy going to the gym, and it's not fun. So the quicker you enjoy this, the faster you will achieve your career goals, because you need to understand that the value is here. Of course, writing the code as well, the technical expertise, but creating products, you know, helping the business come up with solutions.
Yeah.
That's the key growing as a developer.
Maybe one point like that, maybe obstacle for us, like to really like enjoy the process and know it's not, never clear, and it comes in iterative, like how to handle the pressure that you, maybe it's a virtual pressure, but sometimes you feel that unconsciously maybe they want you to say the estimation and start coding that. How mentally you handle that, because sometimes you feel, at least myself, I feel that they want like me to finish that thing as fast as possible. So how to handle also maybe the fake pressure that we put in ourselves, like while coding.
Yes, I noticed many teams I joined, they're like, we're not writing tests because we need to go fast. We need to go fast. And then I talk to the business team and like, hey, we are failing here with automation. We are, slowing down a little bit because we don't have automation because we need to go fast. And they're like, but we don't need to go fast. We can wait. I was like, what? So we don't,
Yeah.
the team thinks they need to go fast, but the business is like, no, we can wait. And then there's a gap there. So there needs to be this communication. Someone needs to go there to the business and have this communication. And maybe the business is like, no, we're not in a hurry. We can actually wait. But someone needs to take the lead, right? And talk to the business and figure it out. And maybe let's say, no, we need to put these features quicker. But what you need to do is say, okay, we can go faster, but we can reduce the scope of what we're doing in this sprint, what we're doing in this week. So we reduce the scope and say, hey, we have this feature we want to build and we want to have like caching strategy so it works offline and it's going to be beautiful. But if we're going to go fast, we're not going to do the caching strategy right now. Let's just do like with only online support and we ship it to the clients next week. We get some feedback from them. If everything's okay, then we start working on the caching. So you have strategies of reducing the scope of what you need to do to achieve a deadline. And you schedule the other work that you need to do over the next sprints, over the next weeks. So instead of saying, no, we don't have time to do that, say, no, to do it the proper way, the way that we will scale to what the business wants, based on the business goals, here are some options. If you want to deliver on this date, we can reduce the scope by taking these and these functionalities, and then we implement in the next sprint, bringing, again, solutions rather than problems. Rather than saying no, you bring different alternatives.
Yeah, I think that's really a game changer point, like to understand that we are not, as you said, we are not only coder, but
yeah,
we are something bigger than that. And like even if it will take time, and even if we don't have time, like sometimes like we will wait. And I think like instead of like having this pressure in the process, like to enjoy it, that's really making the product nice and like evolvable. Like you can really iterate on that and enhance each time, and instead of like really like pushing everything in one cycle. And that's it.
Yeah, if you're part of a company that thinks about the long term, they want to be there for the long term and become a great product, a great company, then it's a matter of talking to them and they will understand, because you're bringing alternatives that will lead them to where they want to go in the long run as well. You're still achieving the short-term goals that they need, the deadlines, but in a good speed, in a good direction, right? And enjoying the work as well.
Keyword is lead here, like there must be initiative by someone. I don't know if there is one. If there is not,
take the lead.
Absolutely, go for it, because that's an opportunity, and like this information, you're going to read it in the book as well, which reads like as a manual exactly on this topic, part 2. So absolutely, like for example, the fake nervousness that you mentioned, like for me this is 100% the lack of leadership sort of situation going on, because it's like lack of information, what the business needs and what the developers need. So this needs to go away. So someone needs to do that. Who's going to do that? Who's going to talk to them, to the business side, understand what they need, understand what the developers need, all that. So it's a great opportunity.
And Mike, you're talking about like, is it the engineering manager role or PM role? Like, is it that or something between them? Or
I mean, many companies, depending on the like how they structure their organization, their level of the country, like they have different sort of roles for these things. But like
you have like
just more of a
engineering lead. Every company will have their own hierarchy of titles, but it's someone that is technically proficient and also in a leadership position, have more influence on decisions.
Good. Yeah.
And usually this lead is the one that will communicate with other teams as well.
Yeah.
Like all the leads, like every team would have, like the backend teams probably has a tech lead, and the mobile team have the tech lead, and they talk as well to make sure that the system, the architectures are, somehow aligned, the goals. And usually you have an engineering lead as well that is like talking to all of them as well, more high level for all the teams. But this depends on the company. If it's a startup, maybe it's like everyone is there are no titles, right? Like everyone does everything.
Yeah.
But if you know, the lead is not just a title. The lead is the one person that everyone follows, right?
Exactly.
So you don't need a title if you are providing like good influence in the decisions in there, and you're providing people what they need to fulfill their job, and then they come to you for advice. You are a leader.
Yeah, even without a title.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can have the title and be a terrible leader.
Absolutely. That as well.
Yeah.
But it starts with the actions. Like you need to be proactive, and do things without having any lead, like name in your role.
Yes, I got that point. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now to the next point, which is communication. I think we covered part of it in the previous point, like communication with other teams. But let's have some concrete example here. Like, say, for example, like when to say no. Like sometimes you feel that that's something that can happen in the back end that will serve like the iOS, the Android, the web, everyone. But someone says, yeah, it's not ready in the back end. Let's do it in the client side, and we will like iterate on that later. Like on that kind of situation, like what's the good answer here? Is it a no, and you block the whole thing and you say it doesn't make sense to do it 2 times, or you just say, yeah, let's do it like that and then iterate on that later? Like the communication with non-technical or even technical team.
Yeah, that will depend on the goals. Let's say you have a deadline and this app needs to be out in 1 week. And the backend team check their backlog and say, we won't be able to do all of this and finish in 1 week. But the mobile team have capacity. Then you implement in the mobile team. But if both say, no, we both don't have capacity, then it's a matter of going back to the team, say, hey, we won't be able to meet the 1 week deadline because none of the teams have capacity to implement fully the features, right? But if you're going to tell the business that you're not going to meet a deadline, the earlier you tell them, the better. Don't tell them a day before that you're not going to meet the deadline. Tell them, if you can tell them in like 2 weeks before, 3 weeks, a month before, even better. Because then they have time to maybe let's hire some contractors to help us, or let's de-scope the feature, or let's change our marketing strategy, so then they have time to react to the news. But you shouldn't be fighting the backend team. Try to align the goals and say, like, we all want to release this app. It's not like, oh, the backend, I'm done. And then the mobile say, oh, but we are not. So you're only done when everyone is done. It's not like the backend team's like, whew, I did my part, so now it's on you. Or the mobile as well. Oh, we did our part. You're not doing yours. Now you want me to do your job? No, you don't want this kind of conflict. You want to say, you know what? The mobile team have capacity, but we think that this should be done in the backend. So since we have capacity, we are going to join the backend team and we're going to implement that. And we're going to help you implement in the backend, but we are going to join your team and we're going to do it. But then you need a team that is more versatile in languages. And that's why I tell people to focus on principles of programming, really mastering the principles, because you can apply in any language. Even if you're not a Java developer and the backend is in Java, you can very quickly just pick up the syntax because you have a good flow of developing software, not just I develop iOS apps. No, you are a software developer And it happens that right now you're writing iOS apps, right? But if needed, you're going to join the backend team and you're going to help them deliver a feature.
Yeah, even the learning curve sometimes is not super easy. Sometimes it's a little bit steep.
But you have, for example, experience with Java and PHP. So if the backend needs help, why not join them and help them? If you think this really needs to be done in the backend, instead of telling them off, say, okay, so can I join you and do that? Because we have the capacity. But if both teams don't have the capacity, then it cannot be done. Then it's a matter of going back to the product team and saying, we're not going to be able to meet the deadline. It's not an easy conversation, but it needs to be done. But think about the teams, they are working together. We either win together, like everyone ship it on time, or not. There's no such thing. The backend is done, but the mobile is not. No. Either everyone is done or no one is done.
Yeah, that's totally right.
And help each other.
Yeah, sometimes you feel that really, because in big companies, like you feel that you don't know like which back-end team you are talking to be honest. And it's a huge teams and they have their own APIs. It's there since ages. So like they will change something there to provide you. But like this one team like concept, sometimes it's not there because the teams are really separated and they are doing like different, like in different scope. So sometimes the communication really is like the communication channel is not clear and you don't know which Slack channel you should go to. Like
yeah, so this is a structural problem. This is not a software problem. This is a structural problem and a leadership problem and a cultural problem, right? So it's not a software problem. It's a cultural problem that involves leadership and the company structure. And this needs to solve more to, I don't know, a level above. It's hard to solve these problems bottom up. You know, we as developers, we are at the bottom there of the chain, right? Like we take commands, we don't command anyone. So it needs to be solved at a higher level. You know, this needs to be you need to bring this to attention to someone that is more involved with the company structure and explain that we need a better culture here of teams helping each other rather than competing between themselves. And
or just say that exactly, like in a, I don't know, like in a all hands meeting or for your team or whatever. Like say, like I don't know which Slack channel, you know, I should use here. You know, who should I ping? I don't know. Like it sounds like a serious problem to me. You know.
Or like if a company really wants to have teams that work independently, it's possible, absolutely. You know, following some microservices architecture, for example, and it can be done. But then it needs to be truly, truly independent. You should be able to deploy your app even when the API is not ready. You can set a feature flag or something like this, but you shouldn't be blocking each other. Otherwise, you are not independent. Independent teams you should have decentralized control, which means like you can make choices without having to communicate with other teams. If you don't have this decentralized control, you're not independent. And then you get in each other's way. And if that's the case, then you need to have a better culture in there. Or you say, you know what, we cannot wait the backlog in the from the backend teams. We cannot be blocked by them all the time. Or so we're going to solve our own problems. We're going to create a tiny layer here. We're going to create a middleman API here. And we're going to handle this API. When the backend is not ready, we return some fixed results or we have some feature flags. So you are independent.
Yeah.
So if you're having this problem and you think that it's going to be too hard to change the culture of the company, or you don't have the influence to do so, become independent. The backend seems like, oh, I'm not going to do that. No problem. We are independent. We're going to find a way.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Then, yeah, thanks for that. I think it's also under the lead umbrella, like you take the lead doing that, because if I waited for someone to do that for me, it maybe never happen, and we will be blocked for months or weeks. Yeah.
Yes. So
it's not easy, but if you aim to achieve it, you have a much easier time in any company you go to. But then you're independent.
Yeah, that's the other thing to understand. Like, how do you, like, let's say you move to another company, how do you know it's not going to be exactly like that? So it's one of those problems that you better deal with it the sooner you can. Get it over with. Like, get these skills, these leadership skills, be able to talk to people. And yeah.
Most companies have communication problems, structural problems.
Yeah.
If you are a person that can solve those problems,
Yeah.
you can make infinite money, literally.
Yeah, literally. That's it. Yeah.
They'll say, "Shut up and take my money." Like,
exactly.
Yeah. Cool. So let's say that we did the communication part and everything is good. We almost understood the feature, what we want to implement. The next question is the starting point. So let's say I have a story or I have a feature I want to implement, and it's ready now to be implemented. What's the starting point? Like, and I mean by the starting point, should I do the UI part, start with the nice UI part, like because you have the designs and you have everything, and going backward to the data model thing, or yeah, you start with the data and like from there you can like test drive that, or because like for me, like when I started, like I was always starting with the UI part, but I think this is not right, or I feel it's slower me down because I am kind of like starting from the end point or like getting to the last point in the pipeline and doing that. But when I like followed your strategy in the course and like really to try to force myself to like really to test drive everything, even sometimes I'm cheating, like really I know that I'm not doing it exactly, but at least I know it like my like the testing commit will be in the at least in the like first 10 commits or something. So like what's the starting point that you like prefer or you recommend? Or
it really depends.
mm-hmm.
So the inside out approach is starting from the core of the application, right? From the domain, and start building the API, the cache, and then, you get the outside layers, which is the UI and so on, the infrastructure. The problem with this approach is that it may take like a week until you have something you can show to your team, to your customers, to your boss, and they might start feeling anxious. Maybe 2 weeks, until they see like a screen and it's like, what is going on? Where's the app? I don't see anything. So this can be a problem, right? The outside in approach, which start from the infrastructure, from the UI, and then you start building the system from on, solves this problem, because like from day one you have already a prototype they can use, right? You can ship every day a new updates to that application on test flight, for example, and they can play with it from day one. You can have something to show.
Yeah.
So it depends, but sometimes the UI is not ready. I join many teams where like we start development and the design is not ready yet. We have some mock-ups. So sometimes it's like, oh, let's start from the API because we already have the API contract. So we can start with the API. Even though the backend is not ready yet, we already established a contract with like maybe JSON. This is how it's going to be this JSON schema. This is the properties we want. And then we start from the place that will give us the best return right now. That's why I'm not going to say what is the best one, because it will depend. If you say, no, it's outside in, you will always start from the UI. But what if the UI is not ready? You have only mockups. You start from mockups. That might take more time in the long run. So maybe you start from something that you have more certainty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and depending on the number of developers in the team and how like how sophisticated the team is as well, you can do exactly the same, establishing contracts, between your layers and enable independent development, right? Like, Caio takes the networking, I take the persistence, you take the UI, for example, and then we just compose everything together. Or if I don't know, like we break something, we can adapt it there, like with a thin layer. Yeah.
We can pair the first 3 days of the week, come up with good contracts, and then we can work independently. Then we compose everything together at the end. You have this flexibility. So the starting point is, if you have the UI, probably better, because you deal with the anxiety of your superiors, your boss, your customers, your clients, stakeholders. But that's not always possible. So that's why in the program we wanted to show both approaches. We start from inside out, because we thought that would be the most impact. Most people never seen that before. They always start from the UI. So we wanted to show them, no, there's this other approach you can have. But when we add another feature, I don't know if you finished the program, but when we add another feature, we start outside in, just to show, now that we know the UI, we can start from outside in, and you get these benefits and these benefits. So it's all there in the program. We explain as well, there's a lecture just about this, inside out, outside in.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't reach to that yet. I'm still in the persistency layer, so I think I will come to that later. Good. Really quick question now. Sometimes you're really stuck with the details of some framework, like something related to Stack View or whatever component that you have there, and you really spend a lot of time on it. And it's super easy. It's like you feel that you waste some time on that thing, and you feel like, okay, that's an easy thing, but I didn't manage to get it, because it's a framework thing, and you don't know all the details about all the frameworks that coming from Apple or whatever, any third-party library. But sometimes you're really stuck with a small details, and it takes a long time from you. So is it is there a solution there to not to avoid, but at least to focus on the important stuff at the beginning and then leave these things to the end, not to waste your effort and your energy at the beginning?
Yes, test-driven development, which is also called test-driven design, which you're designing your APIs from the test point of view. And by doing so, it forces you to leave details for later. Hey, I'm focusing here in what I'm building. Oh, I need to talk to an API. Should I use Alamo Fire? It doesn't matter right now. Let me create let me write a boundary interface or a closure here to decouple my system from this, so I can keep testing without making this decision yet. And then, now I need to store this to a database. Should I use core data? Should I use Realm? I don't know. Maybe I should try out this new cool thing that Apple is introducing. Well, actually, I don't need to make this decision right now. I can keep developing it with a fake database that's storing in memory. And then you figure out that okay, this is done. And actually, the app works with this in-memory database. Let me keep this in-memory database and release a prototype to the product team. And they can play with it. Of course, it's not going to cache things. When you kill the app, it's gone. But you have a working prototype. And it might be good enough to release to the clients, to your customers in the App Store, even before you have a database ready. So test-driven development or test-driven design, leaving details for later, creating good boundaries in your system, following good design principles. And then at some point, you will have to deal with the infrastructure. And you allocate the time you need to implement just that boundary interface. And you might get stuck in there because there are details that you don't know about the framework. You're going to read the documentations. You'll find out WWDC videos to learn the obscure details about the frameworks and trying out. But separating your application from those frameworks will make it easier to finish your application even without the frameworks. And then when you need to implement the frameworks, they are isolated in a point that if you're spending too much time, it's you know what? I'm giving up. I'm going to try something else. You discard the branch, start from a starting point where everything is working, and you try another framework, another solution. So using Git is critical as well here. Always committing often, like we show in the program. So you have always a checkpoint. You can go back in time and say, okay, this is working. All the tests are passing. Now I'm going to start implementing this core data implementation. And then you get stuck for a while. You know what? I'm going to discard to go back to that checkpoint where everything was okay. I'm going to try again with a different strategy or a different framework. So always being able to very easily roll back work, it's key. So having a good Git history, a good Git strategy, like versioning.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, as you said, like especially this concept of like dependency inversion that you mentioned in the course, for me it was really like a game changer because, yeah, like I think that's exactly talking about this point, like really not to take care, like not to focus on the details, but just make something generic and like even don't start with an interface, like just make something work and then build that interface. And maybe you can cheat here, like take the same like method names from the framework, and then surprisingly it's already there, like when you inject this dependency there. But yeah, dependency in version, like it was really game changer for me, and it helped me a lot, like especially about this point.
It is very easy to implement, right? It's crazy how
Exactly.
easy it is to implement and how many benefits you get from it.
Yeah.
It's one of those game changers, exactly.
Yeah. So if you have the aha moment, that's it. Like, just it clicks and boom, it opens a whole new world for you.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. We have time for one more question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last question, maybe I can choose, which is, yeah, as a software engineer, like how to really evolve in time, and like how to really achieve something big in maybe, I don't know, 1 year or something. Uh, like because maybe, I don't know, like 10 years ago it wasn't clear at all, like what should you do to like to evolve as a software engineer, like should I do problem solving and like going to hacker rank, or I don't know, like doing all the algorithms and like solve some problems, or read design patterns and read this like 10 books and you will know the patterns, or like just following some courses. So back in the day it wasn't clear, like especially in the mobile development, because it's a new thing. But right now I think we have a lot of resources. But again, the same question, like what's really like the thing that you can do to really evolve and be better software engineer? I know it's more generic question, but like some tips in the way.
How do you become a better swimmer? Swimming
Yeah.
with intention of becoming better. For example, you don't become a better driver just by driving every day. Otherwise, every taxi driver would be amazing, like pilots.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
was not the case. So it's actually practicing with intention. And the thing is, like, we think that if we just work every day writing code, we'll become better. The problem is that sometimes you don't have time at work to actually practice with intention. I like to say, like, if you're a musician, you don't practice on the stage. You're there to perform. You practice at home. No one sees the guitarist like practicing 5 hours every day to perform 30 minutes. Right?
Yeah.
And it's this constant curiosity of learning new things, learn new concepts, look for examples, like how can I do that? And practice every day. You need to do this. Like, this is an infinite journey. The more you do this, the better you will become. And remember that as a software developer, we discussed today, it's not just about coding, right? So as you start progressing your career, you're already good technically. You need to start also investing time in practicing other skills like leadership. Otherwise, you'll get stuck.
Exactly, which is like an amalgamation, of, I don't know, so many other disciplines, that you need to, psychology, economics, a bunch of stuff that you need to learn. But I would also like to add, like, define what better means for you. I would think that this is kind of a personal thing, your question. So what is better for you? Like, this differs, from person to person. Maybe better is like work for I don't know, like people have a dream of working for Apple, you know, like iOS developers. Maybe for you it's not. It's like something else. Maybe it's a financial, goal, right? Or maybe it's like to write your own interpreter, like your own compiler. Who knows?
Not
So-
everyone, I'm saying like leadership skill, for example, but not everyone want to be a leader. Some people are just like, no, I don't want to be a leader. I just
Yeah,
want to write my
exactly.
code, and that's what they want. I want to be better at just writing the code.
Yeah.
And then you will define whatever you want to learn. You need to go through these 3 ways. Learn the concept. Let's say I want to improve leadership. You need to read leadership books, take leadership courses, find good sources that can teach you. The same with coding. I want to improve my architecture skills. There are a bunch of architecture books. There are a bunch of courses you can take and practice. Apply every day. Just like the more you swim with intention, like timing yourself, and the better you'll become. But if you just go jump in the swimming pool, I'm going to do like maybe 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, you're not improving, right? So there must be intention. So as Mike said, you need to find out what you're trying to achieve and then focus on becoming better on that thing. Is it code? Is it leadership? What is it? Is it becoming more financially intelligent so you can invest your money smartly and, multiply your money without working more? Things like this.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I think that was my questions for today. Yeah, thanks a lot
awesome.
for the great talk, and I really learned today and enjoyed the session with you guys.
Yeah, enjoy too. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ahmed.
Thank you, Caio and Mike.
Awesome.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
See you later. Ciao.